The Oregon Ducks are a better recruiting team in Penn State, and I do believe it's going to have an edge. Spencer McLaughlin joining me here at a crossover, Locked on Ducks, Locked on the Portal, the Penn State-Oregon game. Spencer, it's going to be one of the most fun games. I think it has as many storylines as possible, but I also think that recruiting is a key. We all know that Oregon does a great job. Where do you think they hold the biggest edge in recruiting and how it's going to play out on the field in Happy Valley?
Ooh, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. If we factor in portal prospects, I think there is a real chance that you come away from Saturday saying definitively Nittany Moore is better than Drew Aller. Oregon doesn't have to win to reach that conclusion. I just think that is entirely possible. He has looked as good as you possibly could at the quarterback spot through 4 games. And yeah, Oregon's playing teams that are not even close to them from a talent standpoint, but they have looked the way that a great team should against those opponents. So to your question on the recruiting edge, I think wide receiver is the answer. And Penn State did a lot in the offseason, and I've commended them for it on Locked On College Football for going out and getting Devontae Ross and Trevor Pena and Kyron Hudson. And I think those guys are really good. They're an upgrade from what they had a season ago, which isn't saying a ton, but it is saying something. And Penn State realized they had a weakness. They went out and attacked it. And that's not always as common as it should be in college football for certain staffs that don't do things correctly. So when you look at what Oregon has at wide receiver, this is a crazy way to frame it, Brian, but they lost 2 5-stars before the year coming into this game and the season, and they still have more talent in the receiver room than Penn State. It's not like Penn State can't recruit, but Dakorien Moore is not like anybody else. There has never been a true freshman receiver like him at Oregon, and the stats aren't going to blow you away right now because Oregon has so many weapons. You're talking about a 60-year guy in Gary Bryant in college football who was a borderline 5-star recruit himself coming out of high school. You talk about a guy in Malik Benson who is an absolute burner on the edge, and the matchup against Penn State's secondary I think is going to be a really, really fun watch. But overall, I think these teams are really even. I've done way too many shows today. These teams are really even on the field because I think the best unit Oregon has coming into the year, I might say receivers now, which I had second, but I had defensive line as number 1. Penn State's got the offensive line to neutralize. Well, I think Oregon's offensive line is really good. How do I feel against Penn State defensive front? I need to see at least a quarter of football before I have a supreme level of confidence there. And they've been great, but at quarterback, Nittany Moore's been good, but how is he in the wideout environment? That's going to be really different. So, I think the one spot, oddly enough, that I would definitively say Oregon's got the edge is tight end, because who's better than Kenyon Sadiq? Like, his numbers, because of Oregon's offense, not going to blow you away, but man, that guy is living up to the billing right now, and like everybody else on Oregon's team, hasn't even had a chance to showcase his skills on a national platform yet, and he gets that on Saturday night. So, yeah, really, really excited to watch this game. But the biggest, even though Penn State improved, I still like Oregon's wide receiver room, even without Jurion Dickey and Evan Stewart in it, which is crazy. How many receiver rooms could take 2 5-stars out before the season even begins, and you go into your biggest game of the year and say, "Yep, we still have a better receiving core"? I don't think there are many.
The only one that could be up there with that, in my opinion, would be the obvious.
Ohio State.
Yeah. You can't lose Jeremiah Smith, period. But, I mean, they got other guys that are 4 and 5 stars to be similar to.
Carnell Tate and Brandon Innes. I've watched those guys play football. Brandon Innes is good. Brandon is a good football player.
I saw all of them in high school in Florida. It's not surprising to me. Let's flip it around. Which position are you a little more concerned about? Maybe Oregon missed, maybe a kid's hurt, whatever it may be. Which spot gives you concern heading into Happy Valley?
I wonder about the safety position. Now, I've been encouraged by the play of a couple of blue chip recruits in Kingston Lopa and Aaron Flowers. And like I said, guys, my brain is so fried. It's been a day. But Those two guys, I think, have played well. Flowers in the run game. I remember you talking to me about him and how well he does in the box coming out of high school, Bryant. He's awesome coming downhill. Over the top, I mean, he hasn't been burned, hasn't made a huge mistake yet, but his impact is, boy, he gets downhill and makes tackles and he doesn't miss them. And he hits guys really, really hard. So I think those two have played well, but have a bigger test today. And the one I go back to, and I don't remember if Penn State was a part of it, Brian, but Peyton Bowen was a dramatic recruitment, shall we say, back in the day. He was to Oregon. He was, ever since then, the safety room has not been up to the rest of the standard or the rest of the team standard at Oregon. And I go back to that and wonder, did the staff, think they really had something there, and were they really depending on that? Because it hasn't been good. It wasn't good in the Rose Bowl. But in this spot, does Penn State have the offense, and is it flowing in a way that they could challenge them in a significant manner? I don't know. So, that's one that pops into my head. But gosh, when you look at, from a high school recruiting standpoint, what hasn't Oregon recruited well? Like, which position? What's the week where Oregon's running backs are not as good as Penn State's? And yet Oregon's got 4 running backs I feel good about. I just don't think there's a glaring weakness or a glaring difference. If you want to nitpick an edge for Penn State in this position group or in this battle or Oregon here, I think you can. I just don't see a group on either side covering these teams as much as I do where I say, yeah, there's a huge gap. I mean, just a monument. Oregon has just dominated the recruiting. I will say, I like having Brandon Finney out there on the perimeter. That dude's going to be a superstar at corner. And he's playing and starting as a true freshman, and Penn State wanted him, and Oregon plucked him right out of their backyard. That's the most impactful Oregon-Penn State recruiting angle I think you can look at in this game. But other than that, Oregon's recruited very well. We know that, but I look at Penn State's recruiting rankings. They don't suck. They're not bad. They're really good, as a matter of fact. And I think that's why everyone's so excited for this game.
I would agree. I'll get you out of here on this. Penn State in the whiteout, that's a crazy, loud environment. It's one of the best, if not the best environment in all of college football.
I think it's the best.
I mean, it'd be hard to go against it. But to put it mildly, Autzen Stadium is incredible too. How much do you think Dakorien Moore will or will not be impacted by the road environment? Because this is his first time, and nothing against the other teams they played. They had no chance. No chance.
No chance.
What do you think the environment, maybe it's somebody else, but what do you think about Dante in Beaver Stadium?
Well, there's a twofold test. I'm curious to see with Dakorien Moore here. One is communication. How is he able to orchestrate the offense and do the things that a year ago made Dylan Gabriel the starter over him, right? Why did they start Gabriel when we're watching Dakorien Moore play this way? Because Gabriel knew how to play the position. Dakorien Moore knew how to be an athlete, but not necessarily a quarterback. And a huge part, as you know, of being a quarterback and a good one is what you do pre-snap with making reads. This is something Bo Nix was very good at, calling audibles, getting into the right protections and identifying coverages and getting into the right offensive checks based on the game plan you came up with your offensive coordinator throughout the week. How does he do that? How does he communicate those things when 100,000 people are screaming at the top of their lungs? That's the first thing. Second thing, he's going to get hit more in this game than he has the rest of the season combined. He has been sacked 1 time in 4 games, and he's seldom even been under pressure. He's going to have to face more of that in this game. He's going to face the best defensive coordinator he has seen all year. That is going to be a sizable test. How does he respond, not just, within the structure of a play when, let's say Denai Dennis Sutton beats Isaiah World, who I think has been okay, not bad, but just okay at left tackle. Let's say he beats him right off the ball on 3rd and 6. How does he respond in that play? Or if it's 2nd and 10 and he gets popped as he lets it go, does that rattle him for the next couple of throws and he struggles to settle in? Those are the things I'm watching for, because he's going to face a level of difficulty in that regard that has not come even close. The point spread is not something that should be, at the focal point of these game conversations, because there are a lot of factors in play. However, I do think it's representative of what, Oregon is facing here compared to what they have seen. They've been a 27.5 point favorite or greater in every game so far this year. They're a 3.5 point underdog. Okay. That is the Grand Canyon of line movement, and it is reflective of how much better Penn State is than everyone else they've played, how much tougher it's going to be, and it's on the road. Penn State is off a bye, and Jim Knowles has had extra time to prepare for the Oregon offense. So I think that for Dakorien Moore, communication first and foremost, and secondly, how do you respond to adversity? Because, he's been excellent in a clean pocket, and I think he will be if he's got that again. He's just not going to have it as much as he has in the first 4 games.